Hi, I'm Ken Pinto, author of the book How Much is the Milk? The only supply chain management book written specifically for residential construction. Or at least I'm pretty sure it's the only one. And this YouTube channel has been created in response to you. Questions and comments from readers and folks I run across in social media and industry events. Seems a lot of you have the same questions. Now I know a lot about construction. I know a lot about supply chain management. I don't know anything about your company. So best I can do is share my knowledge, skills, and experiences with you and let you decide how to use the information. The value of this channel will be significantly improved with your participation. So use the comments section below to put in your questions, comments, concerns, or just a suggestion on another video that you'd like to see done. Like and subscribe so that you get notified when new videos come out. You know, we have a lot to talk about. So let's get started with our next video. One of the greatest responsibilities of a supply chain manager is to be able to predict future costs, whether going up or going down, as accurately as possible. We want to be able to preserve profit margins on houses currently under construction. We want to be able to set the right prices on houses that are yet to go out for sale. And we want to help the land acquisition team to make land deals with the most accurate information. If we tell them how the direct costs are going to be too high, we may not get the land deal. If we tell them it's too low, we may get the land deal but not make any money on it. So it's important for us to be able to see that information. This is the middle of August, which means that the July Producer Price Index numbers just came out. And there are a couple of things about the numbers that came out this month I want to chat about. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what the PPI is and how to take advantage of it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, pulls information like 100,000 quotes per month from about 25,000 different entities in order to create the Producer Price Index. And what a great tool for us. I mean, managing costs is tough. And especially when costs are going up and up and up and up and up, you're basically the bad news bearer every month. And everyone in your division's going, oh, price is going up again. It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. I know exactly what it's like. But it's not always your fault, right? There's just issues we need to accept as, out of our control. The PPI can help you identify whether you're in line or not. So imagine that if your house costs are going up at a rate this big on a graph, and PPI is going at a similar rate, you think, oh, okay, well, I've got validation that I'm probably paying the right increase. It doesn't tell you whether or not you're paying the right price to begin with, but it does tell you that your rate of increase would be the same. Whereas if your rate of increase were like this, and it showed, the PPI showed a different rate of increase, then it leads you to ask a question, is this really a legitimate cost or not? And so it's one source of information you can help to use to identify whether you think you're paying the right rate of increase or not. So this isn't pricing. So the PPI doesn't produce any pricing. Everything in there is an index, an index based on a random number of 100 in 1982. So in 1982, they come up with 100, and the change after that, if it went up 10%, then they made it 110. If it went down 10%, they made it 90. And so the baseline in 1982 of 100 is what all the index numbers we have are based on. They do not show any pricing, only a change in the selling price from one time period to another. And the information is a little bit dated. Some of this is last month's data or the month before. So at best, I consider PPI data to be about 2 months old. So there's a little bit of a lag, so you should expect that. And for example, you think about it, take a look at this graph of 2 months ago or 2 weeks ago, copper wire dropped down 68%. And the PPI is not yet going to reflect that. So here, you take a look at this graph and you could see this sharp drop in the bottom line of Southwire, who's the largest producer of copper wire in the United States, dropped their cost by 68%. The PPI line at the top is showing a little bit of a downturn, but not much yet. but they will. Will reflect this selling prices throughout the month. Now, if Southwire changes their pricing and come off of that 68% drop, which, by the way, they just did, it just ticked up 8%, then what the PPI will probably reflect is some sort of average of the amount of products selling at the different rates. And of course, Southwire is not their only source of information. They're getting it from multiple sources. So it will look different, but it should see it coming down. But realize that there's always a lag. In addition to that, the numbers that come out are preliminary. So if you look at this screenshot of a report for asphalt, for no particular reason, asphalt just happens to start with A, so it's at the top of my list of the things that I pull down from PPI each month. And look at the 4 months data, the recent 4 months data with a little capital P in parenthesis next to each of the numbers. It means it's preliminary. It's subject to change. Now, typically, the preliminary numbers don't change a lot, and sometimes they don't change at all. So if there's adjustments that need to be made, they'll wait until that 5th month when the number becomes permanent to make any changes. So can you imagine? You're taking a test in school, and then after the test, you think, hey, you know what? I think I need to adjust those answers. And then another week later, you say, you know what? I need to adjust those answers again. And then another week later, you're like, hey, teacher, I'd like to adjust those answers one more time. We can't do that, right? Well, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics can. So all the data that you're going to see for the first 4 months that the information comes out is preliminary. It's going to change. It could change. It's subject to change. Sometimes it changes a lot. So here's a couple of graphs. So one for aluminum, and take a look at this. So aluminum numbers changed. So what was reported in June is what you're seeing on the bottom, and what was reported for July is what you're seeing on the top. A big difference. They revised all of the last 4 months data. So I gotta wonder what happened. Did they miss some quotes? Did they not have time to process it? Did the entities that they pull quotes from were late, tardy in submitting information? They're not very transparent on that, so I don't really know what's going on there. And then here's the graph for copper wire. And here we see, this is the same information, but just for a different reporting period. The top line is reported in June, and the bottom line is reported in July. And for the first 2 months, the numbers are exactly the same. They're on top of each other. That's why you can't really distinct one from the other. But as soon as April hits, they start to change because May and June numbers change. So if you look at May and June numbers at the top, the PPI was indicating, oh no, copper wire's fine, nothing's changing, everything's good, status quo, good to go. And then suddenly, this month, they went back and revised May and June's numbers to be significantly different than they are today, which we're not surprised by, because if you saw my video on copper wire and the runaway train, we already know that copper wire has come down. And PPI is just starting to realize it. What surprised me is that they're going back to May and June and revising those numbers. So look for copper wire to take a downturn in the PPI numbers. But what these two things represent, these two categories, the aluminum and copper wire, is a yellow flag. So when they change preliminary information, what's this? Is that a yellow flag? This looks nothing like a yellow flag. Stop it. What it does is it raises a yellow flag so that when I'm reading commodity news, which I do for about 30 minutes each day, and I get about 20 documents each day, and I can't read 20 documents in 30 minutes, so mostly I'm scanning the information and looking for relevant information that I'll copy and paste into my, I use Evernote, which is a fantastic program, and I have a note for each category, and so I just keep a chronological list of news items in there. And Evernote has a powerful search engine, so if you ever need to go back and find stuff, it's very effective. So I'm copying and pasting, but when I have a yellow flag raised for a category, I'm reading, so I'm scrutinizing the information a lot more. I recommend that you have multiple sources of information to identify the factors of supply and demand for both pricing and availability. make the PPI one of your sources of information, and see changes happen before they hit your books. If you have any questions, leave them in the remarks below, or send me a private message on LinkedIn, which seems to be the preference these days. And I'll see you on the next video.